Welcome to this installment of Couch Confessions with Jen. We're going to talk about all the things that you need to know about real estate. Everything. All of it. We're going to talk about it right here. Check it out. So Mark, we've been together a long time. Got our radio show we do together. We talked about a lot of things. So
I know.
I wanted to do a video about some of the stuff we've talked about before. And I think that you've got a ton of experience because you've been doing this since Methuselah was born.
I have. Yeah.
Of being an agent that has seen a lot. And I think on negotiations, both sides, buyer and seller, you've seen so much. And I think that sometimes you see agents not really fighting for their client. And I think that would be a good thing to tell people about. I think that they need to know that sometimes just because you know somebody in real estate doesn't mean that that's the best person to represent you. So what kind of mistakes do you see people make on either side that you can tell us about that people wouldn't know as a buyer or a seller? They're not going to know because they're not doing it. That really costs them money or costs them time or costs them the offer altogether.
Well, so, like we've talked about, on our own before, is not all agents are created equal. Mm-hmm. And, one of the things that has happened, and, again, like you said, I've been around a long time, and so I've seen all kinds of different markets. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that is different about this market is it does lend itself to properties are selling so quick that the general public says to themselves, well, number one, why do I need an agent? And, really all I need is somebody to come and put a sign in my yard and my house is sold. But that's not it. Yes, in today's market, it is easy to create and generate traffic. It's easy to get a buyer to come look at your property. But the agent's job has changed over the years. But the agent's primary job today, in today's world, is the negotiation. It is sifting through the offers, going through the legalities, and juggling. How to get you from your house into the next one as a selling agent. And so they need to have that experience or a company that they can draw from. They still need to have the marketing, they still need to be able to do things properly, but their job really is to how do I handle problems. In today's world, it's kind of like, like an insurance policy. Nobody likes to pay insurance until you need it. Right. Well, nobody says that there's a value in a real estate agent until there's a problem. Mm-hmm. And literally, as you know, mm-hmm. there's a problem on every real estate transaction.
Oh, of some sort.
Of some sort.
And we see it because we do for sale by owners, which I do not recommend. But we see that where people are not represented. And I've even seen sellers on FSBOs at the end ask for more money.
Right.
And buyers felt desperate. One particular girl was pregnant. She had to move in. It was a complete hot mess. And so had she had an agent, that wouldn't have happened. It just wouldn't have happened to her.
So, I encourage, with that mindset that the agents aren't the same. And there is a tendency to just hire whoever. Mm-hmm. You know this person or this person, is look like they were okay, but you don't
it's
really.
Your cousin or your friend or your buddy at work. Or,
yeah, you need to fact check. And on the seller and buying it, on the seller's end especially, you're paying the commission, mm-hmm. And so you're offering part of that commission to the buyer's agent. But regardless of who gets it, it's coming out of your proceeds. Mm-hmm. And so as a seller, and those commissions aren't it's not $50. You're going to pay a fair amount, but it's going to be a decent amount of money in order to get your house sold. So to me, it doesn't make sense to have that investment into an agent that is not going to bring the value. So the agent has to provide that value, and that may be is getting you more money for your property. That may be getting it sold quicker. That may be just making it easier and handling the whole transaction. But you need to interview the agents. You need to ask them questions. What are you going to do to earn your money? What makes you different? What makes your company different?
And it's okay to ask those things.
Yeah, because that's their job is to sell you on their services.
Yes.
Their job is to say, this is why you should hire me. Mm-hmm. And so, and again, make them tell you, but take the time to study. We've talked about when you purchase a house, it's such a large thing that you're doing. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't be handled frivolously.
No.
It's something that you need to take seriously. And the same with hiring a real estate agent as a seller. Now, as a buyer. Typically, you're not paying the buyer the commission as a buyer. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean, again, that you shouldn't just hire the first agent that can get you the property. There's sometimes this frantic panic mode that the buyers can get into, that I've got to get in this property, and whoever answers the phone, that's who I hire. Well, again,
Or
that
jumping to
Right.
all different ones.
and that could be the agent that answers. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
that's a sign that they are the best agent because they're prompting to get to you. But maybe you know what, they just happen to look down and and hit a button, and then they haven't sold a house.
Maybe you interrupted their TikTok.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So again, it's okay too to when you call, and so the deal of all this, especially the buyer, is have an agent picked before you really start looking. Don't look and say I'm going to call this agent, answer the phone because I called online on this property or I sent them a message and they responded quickly. Kind of find that agent as a buyer before you really get seriously looking and saying, hey, I'm thinking about buying a house. What can you do for me? What makes you different as a buyer's agent? Because I'd like to use you. You become recommended, but talk to me. And this person, seller or buyer, also have to have a strong level of rapport with you, because they could be a great agent, but maybe there's just a personality issue. Maybe you don't like the way they talk to you. Maybe you don't. Maybe they're straightforward, or maybe they beat around the bush too much. Whatever it is, you've got also personality. I mean, it's a.
You're going to spend, especially in this market.
Yes.
You're going to be spending a lot of time together.
Right.
So you've got to get along really well.
Right.
And
you got to trust that person.
Right. And I think too, back to the buyer or the listing side, you listed my house a couple of years ago before it was crazy like this, and they asked for things, and you're like, no, we're not paying for that. No, they've got this much left, they've got that much left, and I was like, oh, we'll just okay, no problem. And you're like, no, we're not paying for that. So that's something as a listing agent, people need to realize too. If your agent is saying, oh, just give it to them, or it's just found money, it's who cares? You don't have the money till you have the money. I mean, you don't have to pay for that stuff, especially in this market.
Well, and a lot of things are local customs too. I spoke with an agent this morning who is not from our area. They actually worked for an out-of-town company, but they're going to work for us now. And real estate is local, no matter what. And if you have somebody representing you that's not familiar with the way things are, right. It can hurt your negotiating position. And so that's another thing I just really highly recommend is work with an agent that's in that primary market. That's where their business is. So that may be one of your questions. Where's your business at? Where's your office at?
Right.
Where's your sales at? And that could be maybe one of your deciding factors. I mean, if they're selling something in Chillicothe, but they're trying to sell you something in Chillicothe, but they've never had a transaction inside the walls of Ross County.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not the right agent for
They're
you.
not going to have the relationships with the title and with appraisal and the inspectors, and they're not going to know who to ask.
Right.
So I think it's really important that people know that you have to interview an agent. You have to know that it does matter who you pick. They're not just opening the door and filling out an online form. It's a lot more than that. So I appreciate you taking time with me today.
No problem.
I think it's super important. I'm glad you were the one to explain this to us.
Well, thanks for having me.